Greetings to everyone joining this session. My name is Melina. I run Sustainability Communications at One Click LCA, and I'm joined today by Graham Berry, Sustainability Project Manager at Hilti. Happy to have you with us, Graham.
Thanks very much for having me.
Today we'll be discussing multi-attribute evaluation for sustainable products and Hilti's approach to product circularity and carbon transparency. So let's dive right into it. My first question to you, Graham, is when assessing materials for sustainability, which attributes do you prioritize beyond carbon footprint and circularity? And can you share maybe how factors like durability, human health, and resource efficiency influence your material decisions?
Sure. So aside from sustainability, productivity and safety are two major topics. Durability as well has become a very big topic, and not just in the context of sustainability. We subscribe to the idea that the most sustainable building is the one which people still enjoy using in hundreds of years, and not one which simply has lower embodied carbon now. And that attitude translates to our own product development. So better invest a little bit in increasing robustness now if it means you have something which does what you need it to for much longer. Human health is also a topic we've been focused on for a very long time. For really, our ambition is about making construction better. So, focusing on breakthroughs like virtually dust-free job sites or driving down vibration on job sites have been major topics. And then decarbonization has been a focus we've added as we raise our ambition level in the sustainability field.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And when we talk about multi-attribute evaluation, sometimes trade-offs are inevitable. How does Hilti navigate situations where certain material qualities may conflict, like when, for instance, durability classes with recyclability or low carbon emissions with cost?
So thankfully, we have our three guiding principles. So productivity, safety, sustainability. If an idea doesn't serve all of those, then it won't get far. When it comes to resolving conflicts, it sounds cheesy, but really our customers seem to cast the deciding vote. Hilti works a little bit differently in that we have a direct sales model, which simply means an awful lot more direct contact with the people who work with our tools, who design using our fasteners or fire stop products. And it simply means we can find out directly which direction a product should take when we have multiple options.
It's very interesting, Graham. So, from what I understand, customer feedback does play a really big role throughout the process.
Exactly. Yeah, we're lucky to have over 20,000 salespeople in the field, and that everyday contact with the people who depend on our solutions really does have a big impact on how products end up being developed. It gives us simply a more qualified opinion when it comes to refining designs.
Thank you very much. Moving forward, choosing the right material can really help cut down carbon emissions in buildings. How does Hilti figure out which materials reduce carbon the most?
So the short answer is it's all about data. When talking about our own products, we are lucky to have a huge database of LCAs. LCAs have been a mandatory deliverable for all new products for easily the last 10 years. So now that we have SBTI commitments, for example, and we really need to drive down our carbon footprint, we're lucky to have a lot of data to give us quite an informed starting point. The raw materials that obviously you would expect raw materials to be the starting point, and really there weren't too many surprises there, as though some polymers, some high performance alloys were exactly what we started working on. Uh, then, of course, the use phase was the big surprise. Re-engineering products so that they can do more with less has become a very exciting topic. So, for example, designing structural fasteners, which means you need fewer anchor points, or creating a drill which can bore more holes per charge, per battery charge. Um, these are all ways we hadn't initially considered reducing the final emissions, but have given promising results so far.
And what advice would you have for
These
manufacturers?
like
Excuse me, I don't think I heard you.
sorry, I mean, so I was just going to quickly mention initially these research topics were motivated by our interest in productivity, but then responsible resource consumption has given it all a whole new meaning.
Great, thank you very much. And what advice would you have for manufacturers on picking materials that have a big impact on lowering emissions? Do you maybe have an example of a client who has successfully done this?
So we could use an internal example. We uh, so really our SBTI targets, we've committed to achieving net zero greenhouse gas emissions across our entire value chain by 2050, and because of that, we've really had to introduce very ambitious internal targets. The the real focus is threefold. So we want to create data transparency, as I mentioned. Then also circular principles are some of the most exciting projects we have at the moment in product design. And then also focusing on value engineering. So simply using less material for the same applications, and then more sustainable options wherever possible. So obviously that means replacing one material with another, or even just driving up the recycled content. If you, I mean, that's pretty close to some advice, but really put in another way. One, invest in data transparency. It keeps you honest and it gives you a way to measure progress. Two, design for circularity, because the low embodied carbon is only half the story. You don't want to get burned by ignoring the end of life until it's too late. And then finally, this one is close to my heart, is cherish the low hanging fruit. It really is quite difficult to reduce CO2 when you have very high durability and quality standards. But you will hopefully find a few areas which are easier to tackle. So start with those to build expertise and confidence.
It's really interesting. Thank you, Graham. And often customers have different sustainability priorities, such as low carbon emissions or high resilience. How do you ensure that diverse customer needs are met without compromising on sustainability goals?
So thankfully, we don't encounter too many conflicts here. The customers we work with most, or as we experience it more and more, they are quite focused on rapid decarbonization, and the industry as a whole understands how important that is. So the ultimate result is we do focus on decarbonization as much as our customers do. Um, Perhaps a lack of standardization or a consensus about how to document and calculate other attributes is slowing down the discussion. But in general, the industry is very focused on rapid decarbonization. Even when you look at the various certification schemes, building certification schemes, carbon is still so influential. LEED V5, easily half of those points are focused on carbon reduction. And then of course you can add well-being on top of that, but there's at least no real conflict between decarbonization and well-being.
Thank you very much. And you mentioned the lack of standardization right now. How do you see a way forward? What is one thing that could change and that needs to change?
So there does need to be some intervention at regulatory level, I would say. The efforts towards EPD standards, for example, have proven quite successful, I would say. There's been broad adoption of EPDs by both suppliers and their customers. And it would be great to see similar standards appear for the quantification of other other environmental impacts. But it would have to come from associations or a really government level.
Yeah, I agree. I agree absolutely here. And do you see carbon transparency benefiting the company? How has the market responded?
So it's definitely early days in our corner of the construction industry, but we're seeing data transparency move exceptionally quickly from being a nice to have to an essential. I mean, the EU's construction products regulation went into effect in the last few weeks, and that's really a huge milestone now, which puts data transparency top of mind for a lot more people in this industry. Um, so even though it is early days, it's clear that, or at least we think it's the right thing to do, and we're privileged to partner with like-minded construction companies for the moment, and the number of partners is growing very steadily. The benefit to the business really is that it gives access to it starts conversations. Basically, it gives access to different parts of the industry maybe than we would have talked to otherwise, and it's just a very exciting new way to build rapport with customers.
And circling back to circularity for a moment for products, would you like to give us a little bit more example about how do you enable product circularity at Hilti?
Yeah, sure. This is one of the most exciting examples of a large scale decarbonization program within the company. Um, we operate a lot of our own tool service centers, and we also have a, a fleet leasing model for power tools. And we have started now systematically collecting tools at the end of their leasing period or at the end of their usable life. And um, that starts a whole second life for at least some of those tools components. Um, it is, of course, far better than disposing of them or recycling the materials themselves, and simply testing the components that come back in for their viability and then using them, for example, in repairs, is really the best thing we could do for prolonging a tool's usable life. Not just in terms of the environmental, but also the financial impact.
Yes, of course, the financial impact is something that often goes hand in hand with sustainability goals as well. How to do one without impacting the other. That was really enlightening, Graham. Thank you for joining this discussion. It's really been a pleasure learning more
My
about how
pleasure.
Hilti approaches product circularity and carbon transparency, which is why we're all here. Thank you very much, and see you
Exactly.
in the
Yes.
next
Yes.
time.
Thanks. Yes. Thank you very much. And I'm looking forward to attending the rest of the summit.